Excellent. Again, thank you for doing this.
Pleasure.
It's there's no shortage of things to talk with you about, but I think it is kind of cool to talk to someone who is so within giant things that people care about, but makes it so personal and deeply interesting. Because I think it's probably easy to lose yourself in these things because you can look around and be on this giant stage and be like, oh, I'm making this, I'm making that, I'm in the midst of this giant thing. But you bring such creativity to it at all times that I'm always fascinated. Same with like when you direct something, because your directing tends to be very different than your acting. So I'm always just fascinated with what you're up to and what you're thinking, what's going on in your head.
Look, I mean, I think what I love, I mean, my favorite kind of storytelling is clearly a kind of mythological or mythological worlds different to ours that say something that I feel say something important about our worlds and the characters therein, so whatever those characters may be, humanoid, creature like, or human, this really hit the this really hit the kind of the bullseye for me in terms of storytelling because of Tony's writing and Tony's kind of incredible ability to take a franchise like Star Wars, and I was a big fan of Rogue One, and uh, I just love that you can have the big, having played a character like Snoke in JJ's and Ryan's films, and then to come and hit another character from the ground up, kind of representing the other end of the spectrums, from someone with extreme power and is a dangerous, menace in the universe, to someone who is very, very human and fallible, and sort of has strength but has lost his desire to care about others because it's just not worth it anymore. He just wants to live out his sentence.
Yeah.
um and until he finds himself again through Cassian Andor and the kind of relationship. So I suppose what I'm saying by that is I think, as an actor and as a director, I do love stories that feel very human or very emotionally connective and understandable to us, but that exist in other worlds.
Oh, I mean, it shows. I mean, I think I remember when you made Breathe, a lot of people initially like, that's an interesting choice for Andy to be making. And like, but when you think about, like you said, what you're interested in, it makes sense, because if you weren't interested in that, you wouldn't breathe life into things that ostensibly don't have life in them. You have to be on a set when you're directing, getting people to the thing in your head has to somehow come out on the screen. You have to get other people to imagine pretty much the same thing. And if you're interpreting King Kong or whatever you're doing, you have to imagine what someone else is imagining, then figure out a way to do it with your body, then also do it in a way that still feels like a character. So I think it would be weird if you didn't care. How does he do it? Like,
No, I do. I think, and it's interesting because like all my kids have started acting now, and when I talk to them about the process of acting, right, it's the question I always ask them is or sort of say to them is, know why you want to be an actor. I think before you even start doing it, you've got to know why, or what drives you to do it. What is it about? I remember asking my daughter that when she was quite young, and it's just like, why do you want to be an actor? And she said, I want to be able to, what was it? She said, I want to go forwards and backwards in time and walk in someone else's shoes or something like that. It was kind of like, okay,
like good answer. Yeah.
that sounds like a good reason.
I'll write the check. There we go. No, it's true. It's like it's I'm always shocked at the people who don't seem to like it because it should be the best job in the world. Like you get paid to make pretend and do your own therapy. Whatever's bothering you, you can make a movie about it and work it out. But obviously you have to work up to the point of having choice, and you're lucky enough to be at that point now where you can go, what makes me happy? What's a challenge? What's interesting?
Yeah.
Star Wars, like because especially with Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or King Kong or anything that's a giant property, you have feelings about it just like people who care about it because you went and saw this movie, you went and read that book. So there's some degree of like yeah, I never thought I'd be in that. Like, you never thought you'd be in King Kong as a child. It's just not something you comprehend. Same with
No.
Star Wars. So to get to do it is still, the fact that there's joy in the work, I think is clear.
Oh, I do. I do. I count myself so blessed with every job, it's kind of like, it's always an adventure. It doesn't always work out. And sometimes you walk away from it thinking, yeah, that was not good. But, it is never, I never ever kind of, do not like the fact that I mean, I love what I do. I love it. I love what I do.
No,
I
the
feel
worst part
very,
should be having to like bullshit with me about it. Like that should be the worst part is like, oh, I got to talk about this a
I
million.
don't even, I don't mind that. I like talking about it.
Exactly. It's like if you're proud of it or it's interesting or generally, people who like the work will say nice things about you. So it's not the end of the world. But yeah, it's to be able to have the ability to, especially with Star Wars, different characters within this universe. And like you said, you played like literally a large character and now one of the most human characters in the universe. It's very it feels very you, which is a weird compliment, but also like, you've developed this brand's the wrong word, but a following of people who like, oh, he's doing a thing that no one else is really doing. And obviously other people do it now, but very much blaze a trail for people. And that's not nothing, holds cachet in the world.
Well, I do count myself lucky. I was around. I just happened to hit a moment where, and this is all really came from Peter Jackson's desire to change, to change kind of visual effect into character and actually, see the power of having an actor on set play a role so that it was, an actor that, whereas prior to that, other actors would have been, someone would have read the lines off.
Yeah.
They would have been looking at a tennis ball and a stick, and they would have had to imagine the character. And then suddenly Peter Jackson goes, no, I want the person playing, I want the actors playing their, Samwise Gamgee and Frodo to act opposite someone who's playing Gollum, even though he won't be manifested on screen as himself because of the design of the character is impossible. So how are we going to figure that out? And it's like, but what crucially what he did was, gave me the opportunity to author a role, and the technology sort of grew around that, and the desire to make it work kind of was what was so exciting.
It's sort of the height of acting because you're doing something new. Like, what's more exciting than doing something new? Even if it's,
Yeah.
like with Andor, I'm going to find a new way to do a character in a show that's doing things differently. Like this feels right to do it this way, and having the confidence in your abilities, going, I'm going to do it. I imagine the first time you're on your hands and knees running around, it seems like, is this dumb? You have to get past the like, is this dumb part? And you're like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna trust that someone will tell me if this becomes dumb. And you're a director now, so you know when to be like, maybe let's go in a different direction now. Like, good job, but like, let's go that way now.
Yeah, but you're right. But also, again, one of the things I learned from Peter, kind of many things that I've sort of observed with Peter as a director, is that he creates an atmosphere where you're not afraid to fail. You can try stuff and you bring your A game because you're encouraged to. He really values everybody's input and everybody on the set. And, as a lot of directors do, of course they do. But Pete just created an atmosphere where you could feel fearless.
Man, you hear it all the time. Even like big actors, you know, they want to talk, they want to be liked. You want your work to be appreciated. And I think one of the things that's so cool about with Andor is that you're seeing it be appreciated because it could so easily have been like, oh, cool, Andy's in this. But the fact that it is a sort of like a centerpiece on a show that has ambition, it's very cool to see because, like you said, you could have just been told, all right, good job, we'll call you next time we need you. But the fact that it feels creative and it comes off in the show is is unique, and I think is fuel for you. It makes you want to work harder when someone's telling you good job, like with anything in the world.
Absolutely. No, that's true. That's true. I mean, and also for instance, when you're directing, it is it is kind of, you have a parental responsibility to create again, to create that atmosphere where you know, everyone does, you know, feels valued, and that was very much, you know, the way that Toby Haynes, the director of the arc that I was involved in, you know, he did that. He was really, really good,
And I think it is
really
also
good at
like an
doing that.
underrated skill to be in only one section of something, because you have a fully formed arc because you are given a script and you have your part, you create your character, but people aren't watching just your work, they're watching an entire show, they're watching an entire series, whatever the case may be. So you have to be a part of something bigger even though you're not involved. It's a trickier thing than I think people realize.
Yeah, and I haven't really done that
Yeah.
before, you know, in this way, and but I think because it was such a satisfying arc, you know, it was a really beautifully drawn arc, and I think that makes it a lot easier, and I think that then Tony did that with every character, and there isn't a character in Andor that isn't sort of, that doesn't have real kind of, you know, real substance and nuance and real character, you know.
Yeah. Which obviously no product ever thinks not. We don't want to do that. It's the one thing we don't want in this. No character, but the bigger it is, the easier it is to lose that. And I think what makes it work and why it's sort of, I think, really clearly stood out as one of the big like Star Wars TV shows is that it is character forward, and the epicness of it just kind of comes from the situation as opposed to we're starting with epic, and if we can make you care about these people, that's cool too. It's
Absolutely.
inverse.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. It was very detailed. There's a lot of detail in this show, you know, character nuance, you know, design nuance, you know, it's really, it's very thorough, very, very forensic, the
Oh,
whole
yeah,
kind of approach.
you're on set and you're doing your job and you're prepping for your scene, but also there is that moment I'm sure of being like, this is Star Wars. Like I'm in Star Wars. Like I'm literally inside of a thing. Like there's and I think if you don't have that in a way, it becomes easy to be like, yeah, this is just a job. And like, okay, I'm playing this guy and then I go home. As opposed to, okay, I want this to be better than it can be, not even as good as it can be. I want everyone to care. I want this to feel like they're watching high drama as opposed to space opera.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
It comes off too, is the thing. Like, because I think it's so easy for that not to be the case. Especially, no one would have thought less if it was like, oh, Andy showed up, did his job, it's great, and that's it. But the fact that it is such a like compelling character, and the fact that you're watching it being like, I didn't know this guy existed until I got to the episode where he shows up, but I care about this character and I want to know what happens next. Even though
yeah,
you're watching a show that's a prequel to a thing you already know about, like the layers start to come up on it, but
yeah,
it's it's the opposite of distracting because you're like your mind wanders to this guy, but it's good. You're like, no, I now have bandwidth for him as well, as opposed to like get back to the guy who does the spies and like, well, I need eventually got to steal the Death Star plan. Like, come on, get back. And it's never that. It's always
yeah.
like, oh, build in more, and like I want like this prison thing is like fascinating. It's subtle in a way that I think nobody necessarily anticipated, which is a fun surprise.
I agree, and again, you know, it just goes back to the workings of Tony Gilroy's mind, and his, you know, we were talking about this yesterday. You know, he's able to write a story that feels very zeitgeist, very, you know, real, and yet is part of a huge, you know, space fantasy allegory, and yet you can say things which are so human and real and more daring in a way, because it has that umbrella for you to kind of work under.
Oh yeah, no, the best work is when it's somebody going, what's on my mind that I want to communicate into the
Yeah,
world? And it just happens to be within a property as opposed
yeah,
to the opposite. It's
absolutely. It's true. It is really a great object lesson in kind of authenticity, I think. So, you know, Tony's world that he's created.
because because no matter this or something else, when you get a script, you want to one feel like it matters to the writer and it's going to matter to the director and matter to you. But if it's a compelling story, that's a great start. If it's a good character, but yeah, if you read it and go, well, this is Star Wars, but this is also like Tony had stuff on his mind
Uh-huh.
and fuse the two
Big
together
time.
as
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah,
okay, this is an adventure. You know, you
yeah,
at this point you have options. Like it's great to be offered, but like, you know, reading and going like, no, like I want to fight for this role. That's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, Tony has got a lot to say. He's got a lot to say about the world that we live in, and he's crafted it really excellently through this world.
It is such a skill to be like, I've got things to say, and I'm doing it through $1 trillion the biggest thing possible.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
cool and makes it better to watch. Like who doesn't want to see that?
absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I'm so glad that you're on it because we got to watch you in that. And it's also nice to see your face in something every so often, you know, helps people recognize, oh, that's who that guy is. But and
Yeah.
this was an absolute pleasure. You should be very proud and I can't wait to see what's next also behind the camera. Like I think it's fascinating when you direct. So I'm always
Oh well, I'm halfway through Animal Farm.
there we go. Which way to pick a real easy topic. Good for you.
Yeah.
Don't make that a challenge at all, but
No, exactly.
it'll be great.
Uh,
Awesome.
all
Thank you
right.
so much.
Well, it's lovely talking with you. Yeah.
Oh, likewise. Thank you. Congrats again.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
You too. Take care, man.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Joey.